comes to retro gaming, computers can't get no love. Consoles and arcade games get most of the attention, while some incredible home computer gems remain obscure. Not just PC games, but rare systems that never made it west, like the Japan-only Sharp X68000, FM Towns, and PC-98, or the popular in Europe Amiga systems. Many of us in the West, including myself, missed out big time and still don't know that many of these incredibly cool games exist. And these systems often easily outperformed the consoles of their era, with graphics and sound on another level. So in this video, you're going to see some of the rare action gems that you're absolutely going to want to play. And while some of these games are likely familiar to my most savvy of viewers, I'm willing to bet that even you will discover a couple games that you won't believe that you'd never seen before. So strap in for another onslaught of some of the most impressive, gorgeous, and just downright fun games that you're going to be itching to play. If you love Castlevania and you still haven't seen or played Rusty, boy are you missing out, because it's not just another Vania clone, or a sexy Vania clone with demon boobs, but actually has the visuals, music, and the depth of gameplay to be an official Konami offshoot of the series. Easily the least obscure game in this video. Released for the Japan-only PC-98 computer, Rusty is the closest thing to Rondo of Blood on PC Engine, and that's quite a compliment. Had it not released right around the same time, you'd swear that the inspiration was obvious, and the similarity in some of the bosses and encounters uncanny. Even if you dislike the early Vania games due to the slow movement speed, Rusty's got you covered, as it moves in place faster than anything prior to Symphony of the Night. If you're going to clone a series while adding your own flavor and spin, this is how you do it. The visuals are really nice for the PC-98, including a ton of variety in the levels, and some cool boss designs, even if some of the animation comes off a bit stiff. To compensate, you get that healthy dose of demon boobs. Not kidding, a bunch of these bosses are subtly flashing away, like a demented night at the Mardi Gras, minus the beads, and plus the succubus. Let's face it, we are talking about the PC-98 here, with a game library known for its, flavor. But the real standout here is the music. Holy crap, is it good! It even sounds like Konami music, right? Dare I say it's so good that it stands toe-to-toe with some of Konami's best Vania tracks, and elevates the game to another level. Now, much like many early computer games, the platforming controls are initially the weak point, taking time to remap and get comfortable with for those who aren't used to playing with a keyboard, and learning the button combinations to get your timing down. But it's critical in Rusty, not only for the jumping and rope swinging a la Super Vania 4, but mastering the run and whip, how to stop and deal with the momentum. Not because you have to play this way, but because it makes the game more fast-paced and fun, and easier to get around the levels, which are not completely linear and require finding keys, along with hidden areas to explore. It's far less linear than early Vania games, and very well designed in how they work back into themselves, without a ton of backtracking if you route them well. It has that sense of exploration that Rondo of Blood did so well. The timer is also a factor, so knowing the fastest way through a level is a part of the learning process. Oh, and you'll be learning, because Rusty is Vania hard. It's definitely a clone in the difficulty department. That clock tower level will be a bane of your existence, about as much as pretty much any clock tower level was. Thankfully, you get unlimited continues, so it's really just a matter of practice, and not if, but when you finally work your way through it. It's got the cutscenes and story, which you can now play translated in English, by the way. Seriously epic music. Hard but addicting gameplay, more demon boobs than any other Vania, if you're into that sort of thing, and overall feel of the better Vania games, admittedly with a bit of clunky controls and animations to adapt to. If this is the first time you're seeing it, then Rusty is definitely the best Castlevania clone you never played, and should be at the top of your list to check out. And if you want a super detailed review of how cool it really is, check out the in-depth video review by Basement Brothers, even using original hardware in game. One of my favorite channels that if you also haven't heard of before, you should rectify post-haste. Rusty is the real deal, and deserves the cult status that it's garnered. LionHARD on the Amiga has some of the most amazing pixel art ever created, possibly the best on the system, on a system known for some beautiful games. It's the kind of game we salivated over in screenshots, knowing we could never play it. And it's not just the art design and immense variety in stages and enemies, but the ultra smooth animation and large moveset at your disposal. Whether you're bouncing off obstacles, climbing or swinging, or flying on a dragon, it's just beautiful in motion. The attention to every little detail is something you almost never saw in games. But what really grabs me about LionHARD is how this attention to detail extends to every aspect of the gameplay, and the longevity it creates. It's calculated, methodical, memo-heavy platforming, executed well, with only some clunky control options holding it back. Because the Amiga was so limited to its default controls, finding ways to execute such a vast array of moves took a lot of creativity, and you're going to need that entire moveset, as LionHARD constantly shifts its level design and obstacles to keep you on your toes. And until you learn the best ways to approach each area, it'll continue to make cat poo out of you. As yes, your character's actually feline turned human form. Think Battle Cat turned He-Man, with long flowing golden locks, and you get the idea. What sets LionHARD apart from many platformers or hack-and-slash games is the huge moveset. It plays almost like a beat-em-up light. Just swinging and kicking away will only get you so far, and the platforming is equally creative, letting you interact with, bounce off, or use obstacles to your advantage. Enemies too. Even your jump height and distance is determined by how it's executed, and whether you're standing, running, or sliding down a slope. Same goes for climbing or walking tightropes, each with their own nuance to learn and exploit. It all comes together to form a game that's a lot deeper to learn and master than it initially appears. LionHARD isn't an easy game. In fact, the opening stage is by far the longest, with various areas, almost like a trial by fire trainer, that'll teach you the ropes for the rest of the game, but brave through it.
You will eat cat poop, not eat cat poop!
Eat that cat poo. And once it clicks, you'll start breezing through it on the default setting. You'll then find all the follow-up levels to be much shorter, even brisk by comparison, none of them overly frustrating or unfair. However, one of its coolest aspects is how the difficulty settings ramp. Instead of simply harder enemies or taking more damage, LionHARD changes up the platforming, augmenting entire portions of levels, making them harder. They called this mode LionHARD. And it's definitely that. You'll get more than you bargained for, requiring serious mastery. It's such a fantastic and natural progression in difficulty that you wish most other games didn't take the lazy approach, and actually augmented the action in this way to make the game feel like a new experience. Not to mention access to hidden content, and a good ending for your efforts. Entire stage layouts change, so it's really worth the effort to get good. Now, I wouldn't call LionHARD obscure, as it's outright beauty, sweeping musical score, and overall execution makes it a game that any self-respecting Amiga fan likely knew and played. Yes, you'll wrestle with learning the controls for a bit, but once you're comfortable and adjust to the timing and delays of certain moves, then you can properly enjoy the gameplay. LionHARD isn't nearly as popular as it deserves to be, outshined by inferior efforts like Shadow of the Beast, that are mostly style over substance, but not LionHARD, which has it all and comes highly recommended on the Amiga.
Fine, I'll try to eat one. Okay, get in there.
Aqualis is part Assault Suit Vulcan, part Bionic Commando, and all parts awesome, mainly because you can swing around like a drunk monkey to some great music and endless parallax backdrops. Possibly one of the coolest and unique mech action platformers this side of Metal Storm, unlike many later mech games which tend to be brawlers or slow-moving action shooters. It turns slow, clunky mech games on their head. Aqualis is an action platformer at heart, with a pacing that belies your large mech. For the power of the Sharp X68000, the sprite work isn't necessarily a standout, but the way it's implemented is, with a ton of parallax on nearly every stage, making a lot of the areas quite dynamic and memorable, and the music is some of the best Yamaha FM chiptunes had to offer. Aside from your grappling arm, which not only swings you around but also acts as a weapon, you slowly can find around a dozen more weapons scattered throughout levels as you progress, each ideal for certain areas and enemy types, all accessible anytime during gameplay via a menu. And unlike Bionic Commando, you also get a jump, so the grappling augments your movement but doesn't limit it, though you'll absolutely need to master it for later stages. And really, if you aren't playing a game like this to get your swing on, what exactly are you doing? None of the weapons have ammo, so once you find them, it's unlimited use. And don't expect to do a lot of dodging with that beefy mech. It's all about strategy and dealing with each enemy in efficient ways to avoid too much damage, because you're gonna get hit. Aquales isn't without its faults. It's mainly the fresh platforming that makes it replayable and helps outshine its faults. It's not as good as the later Assault Suits Vulcan, and struggles a bit to escape that slightly clunky feeling of games like this. But it's fun and unique enough to get my recommendation to play, if for no other reason than to swing around like a drunk monkey, one of my all-time favorite gaming pastimes. If Spanish developer Locomalito isn't one of the best modern indie devs, I don't know who is. With games consistently ranging from good to great, most known for his phenomenal Ghosts and Goblins homage Maldita Castilla, which if you haven't played by the way, go do that after this video, it's amazing. Well, he also developed an excellent 8-bit style platformer that completely flew under the radar and is a crime to have been missed, and that's Curse of Vicios. With a theme of exaggerated Greek mythology, in the vein of Roy Harryhausen and Clash of the Titans, something I always had a ton of nostalgia for, so I was all over this game when I learned it existed, immediately bringing back memories of NES games like Battle of Olympus, only much more action platforming focused and lighter on the exploration, though you will get a bit of that too. Locomalito has a great sense of game design, enemy placements and visuals feel spot on, including the game's difficulty and length. You won't find any clunky or hard to learn controls here. It's not overly hard, but offers a fair challenge, and a learning curve that most players can enjoy. And the music, by longtime collaborator Gryzor87, is uniformly excellent and really finishes off the presentation. The level layouts range from linear early on to more labyrinthine as you progress, finding keys and items to slowly unlock your way through, along with plenty of hidden areas and secrets to find, without ever feeling like you're spending much time backtracking. And of course, you'll have the cool bosses, from Cyclops, Harpies, Kraken, and more. What blows me away most about Curse of Vicios is that it was released as freeware on PC. Locomalito, you crazy bastard, making games this cool and then just gifting them to us? Like heart refills falling from the sky. If you're a fan of 8-bit platforming classics, there's no reason to not check out this game. And if you enjoyed it like I did, let others know about it. Because the best gift that we can give back to developers who release free games like this for all to enjoy is to have it played and enjoyed by as many as possible. Buster on the Sharp 68000 is easily one of the most obscure games on this list, given it's a one-man fan game by E. Hashimoto, but don't write it off, as this is one mean platformer, developed by the man who went on to create more popular titles, like Akuji the Demon. Buster is straight-up arcade platforming, requiring immense precision and timing with your jumps and attacks, the literal opposite of something like LionHARD, with a massive moveset and steep learning curve. Buster is simple, yet a lot harder than it looks. If you're familiar, your weapon actually works similar to Legendary Axe on the TurboGrafx, where it recharges as you don't use it, giving you a more powerful attack versus just hacking away. And you get a low attack, similar to the original Splatterhouse, where pressing attack just as you hit the ground produces a slide. Along with your jump, that's pretty much it. But those three mechanics, coupled with extremely tight windows and tricky level layouts, make Buster an easy to pick up and play, yet very tough to master challenge. Jump attacks and slides must be executed with flawless, pixel-perfect timing to avoid taking damage or often insta-death. But it's the kind of hard that's never confusing. You always know why you screwed up. For being a one-man show game, Buster looks and sounds pretty darn good too. Nothing that'll bowl you over with effects, but really polished and colorful, with clean and crisp artwork. And if you give the game a go and really enjoy it, you can even check out the later PC remake he made, via a link in my description, as it's not really a remake at all, but a completely different game with new mechanics, and only some of the themes and bosses reimagined. Buster is simple, but Buster is good. Unforgiving, but good. At least if you like your platformers. Straightforward and semi-brutal. Did you know that the Sharp 68000 actually had an immense shmup library, as in literally hundreds of them? Ridiculous amounts. Doujins galore. So in this segment, I want to expose you to the amazingly diverse shmup library of Japanese computers. Not just the Sharp, but the Amiga, FM Towns, Commodore, MSX, and MS-DOS all had some great ones. I've gone and picked out not just some of the best, but the most obscure. So strap in even tighter, because this one's gonna move fast, and it'll hopefully whet your appetite and start you on the path to checking them out for yourself. When I first saw Last Battalion, it blew my mind, because it turned out to be an even cooler, upgraded version of one of my old favorite PC Engine shooters, Override, and everything that made the PC Engine version so much fun to play, the super fast moving ship, and soldier-like hectic gameplay, great hyper shot that you recharge by not firing, and the addicting, replayable nature of it all, only now with souped up graphics and production values, not to mention extra levels, which is great for fans of the original, who want a more spicy experience. Like, really spicy. You get shields here too. But once you die, good luck surviving with that pea shooter for long. Of course, none of this matters, as if you're a lover of Override, you've probably already rushed out and downloaded this baby to play the moment this video ends. Speaking of upgraded versions of 16-bit shooters, let's take a moment to give the FM Towns Marty some love with Undeadline. Yes, that Undeadline. If you watched my top 5 hardest shooters on the Mega Drive, you already know this one well. And personally, I've really liked it ever since I first played it. Even the janky treasure chests, item cycling and all. As you can see, the graphics are much improved and the stages are expanded, levels that were cut from the Mega Drive port. As you also get multiple character classes here, which you upgrade as you progress through the game. Characters the Sega port completely cut out, and the item chests here are also not nearly as janky, not screwing you over by making you grab the wrong item or downgrade unintentionally. These extra levels, features, and flourishes certainly make it improved over the console version. However, don't necessarily expect to love it, as it's also got a glaring flaw, mainly a serious problem with difficulty balance. If you thought the Mega Drive port was hard, please, you have no idea. The final stage here is so ridiculous. It'd probably take a near super player to legit clear it on even the normal mode. You could cheat your way through and still get your ass kicked. I'm not sure the developers actually tried to clear it themselves, so for fans of the Sega port, it's very worth playing. For the graphics, uncut character options, and the extra levels. Just don't expect to finish it. Dive On for the Sharp 68000 was one of my favorite discoveries working on this video, turning out to be one of the better gems on the system. The art style is large, beefy, and colorful, with certain parts of the game giving you extended horizontal scrolling. You can definitely see the Tatsujin influence on the designs. I especially liked this multi-directional blue orb homing weapon, splitting into multiple streams, and allowing you to deal with incoming enemies from any direction, including behind. Something the game likes to throw at you quite often, but at least it gives you a heads up. While I haven't yet played it enough to give a definitive opinion, so far it does feel solid overall, and both the graphics and music make Dive On a standout. Did you know that developer Akira Goya, known for his brutally gory, creative shmups like Galshell, a game I actually showed off in my Weird Shmups video, also made a game for the Sharp 68000, and it's super rare, named Death Ephemera. It's so rare and unknown that as of now, I still haven't found a way to download or play it, that I'm showing here by Zazie77. Definitely more Danmaku-like in terms of bullet speed, density, and gameplay. Your front pod appears to be some type of green alien that you shoot out for damage, but can also be kept out, almost heat-seeking its target for continued damage. Bummer it's not playable, as Akira Goya knows his shmups, and this looks super fun and solid. However, Akira Goya has a new modern game coming soon with a great demo already available called Angel at Dusk, and I had a blast playing it so far. His artwork is always insane, and his experience with shmups is on full display. A demo that I highly recommend you check out on Steam and wishlist for its eventual release, as it's really looking to be something special. What exactly in the hell is going on here? That'll be your first, second, and likely third thought the first time you play The Reap by Housemarque. It's like the isometric viewpoint, mashed into a bowl of acid and speed, and with some meth sprinkled on top for good measure. Though low resolution by today's standards, the graphical work here is nuts and super detailed, like a violent and gory FMV world gone mad. Crazy buses and ships bum rushing you without any warning, while the music is bumping away and keeping you hyped. I can't say that you dodge in this game as much as you simply avoid bum rushes, and play screen control with powered up weapons, watching little dudes explode and scatter across the screen, sadistic death cries included. All a bit jank, yet somehow an over-the-top addicting jank that I'm glad I played through, just for the insanity of it all, and only on PC. What is it with gorgeous Amiga games, often more memorable than many other, more powerful competing platforms? Disposable Hero has some of the best pixel art for a shmup on the system, along with some excellent music. And only handicapped by an unforgiving difficulty, making it impenetrable for many players. The later CD32 version is the one you want to play, as it tones down the bullet counts and speed. Still a hard game, but fair enough to memorize and progress, at which point you can really enjoy the incredible pixel art on display. The weapon system is quite unusual, where you collect blueprints of what must be dozens of variants, before being able to actually upgrade and use them. It's not until you reach a power-up bay sprinkled throughout the level that you can then change your loadout. Being a memo-heavy game, knowing which weapon combos are best to choose at each station becomes key. And while hard, at least the checkpoints are pretty well placed. No, Disposable Hero is not a pedia, possibly the best shmup on the Amiga, and very well known by most, making it the game all others are compared to. Pretty much a must play if you haven't before. But Disposable Hero is some S-tier Amiga presentation. With some solid gameplay behind it, at least if you enjoy a seriously challenging, slow-paced, memo-heavy shmup, with a lot of weapon experimentation at your disposal. At the least, you'll have some bitchin' pixel art to enjoy along the way. One more for the underappreciated Amiga pile, with the 1940-style vertical Banshee, a game that fellow YouTuber and streamer Actane found and recommended to me after featuring it in one of his blind Kumite events. Now, I've never been a big fan of the realistic war sim shmups, but you know what? This game is good, and turns out it's not all that realistic. It starts off on the right foot with a ridiculous story that only a shmup could pull off. Something about his father being murdered by aliens for refusing to invent the microwave oven? That'll teach you to make me heat up my TV dinners the old-fashioned way. See? That's his head there. Nice. Oh, and it's by Core Design, the same company that went on to make the original Tomb Raider games. Visually, Banshee is a standout, with really sharp, detailed pixel art, weather effects, and later stages bringing in some cool alien enemies to spice it up. You later go from plane to spaceship as the journey takes you into alien territory. Now, Banshee isn't without its issues. There's a few janky design and control choices, including some slight inertia in the horizontal movement. But the real omission is the game has no music. Okay, the intro does, but no music, so you'll have to use your own. Maybe something from Metallica like Disposable Heroes would be appropriate. But aside from that one very glaring omission, Banshee is still good enough in other ways to be worth your time, or at least worth checking out a playthrough, while you quickly choke down a frozen dinner in front of your phone, just to stick it to those alien overlords, and their apparent lack of microwave ovens. Back to the Sharp with one of the most rare, obscure, yet mechanically brilliant games, Illumination Laser, and really only main flaw is the generic background and enemy visuals that repeat for the entire game. It lacks visual variety, but boy does it make up for it in not only the great gameplay, but also the music. If you're a shmup veteran looking for the next great challenge, and I do mean serious, no-joke challenge, Illumination Laser will be right up your alley, and it'll give you some beautiful music to play to across its several stages. Your main option allows you to block and absorb enemy fire, using it as a secondary weapon to return that laser fire in various ways depending on the color absorbed, and using your secondary weapon to destroy the enemy crystal cores results in score bonuses and shield drops that you'll desperately need to stay alive. Really an elegant system that forces you to play strategically for bullet absorption. Despite all the enemies being made of crystals, the game gets extremely creative in how it combines them in ways to attack you, especially the bosses, which take it to a whole new level of not messing around. Illumination Laser is like Chorensha in terms of gameplay ingenuity and addictiveness. Really one of the best on the system. It may not look like much, but it's a game that you have to play to appreciate, and comes highly recommended. Just because the older systems like the Commodore and MSX weren't as powerful, doesn't mean that they didn't have some killer games of their own. Take Enforcer on the Commodore 64, the last game for the system programmed by Manfred Trenz, the brilliant developer behind the Turrican series. If you're familiar with what most C64 games looked like and how they scrolled, seeing Enforcer in motion is mind-boggling. To pull off this kind of speed and performance with huge sprites, it's just staggering, but not surprising given his track record. Enforcer is like the shmup stages in Turrican, only cranked to 11 and greatly expanded and improved. And the music by composer Marcus Siebold suits the game perfectly and is one of the best on the Commodore as well. Hard to believe that Enforcer isn't more well known, as it's definitely one of the best. It does have an issue with bullet visibility at times, as their colors being the same as other objects on screen and getting lost in the fray. But at least you get a health bar instead of one-hit kills. It also helps that Enforcer controls like a dream and plays super fast. It's definitely a C64 game you don't want to miss. Following the same trend of technical marvels on less powerful systems, you gotta check out Pleasure Hearts on the MSX. It's like Rekka on the Famicom in terms of pushing the hardware well beyond its limits, creating a lot of flicker and some graphical glitches, yet so impressive and well made that it doesn't matter. Again, not surprising as the game was developed by MKai, later to form Qt, that's with a Q, developer of awesome games like Eschatos, Ginga Force, and Natsuki Chronicles. And of course, the older WonderSwan Judgment Silversword. Many veteran players consider Pleasure Hearts a masterpiece, as it certainly is in terms of gameplay and mechanics, even if you just ignore the technical wizardry. It was actually released late in 19 1999, well past when the MSX was popular. So the Danmaku influence is obvious, with a heavy emphasis on scoring. Like, over the top, massive, in the billions scoring. Something it's known for. It even has a cool RPG-like aesthetic in its menus, its story, life bar, and visuals, all going back to MKai's love for that genre as well. And yes, it has a very good soundtrack to go along with it. Pleasure Hearts is just a wild, crazy cool game, and the footage kinda speaks for itself. So if you haven't tried it yet, it's now easily accessible, along with the English translation. Try it, you won't be disappointed. But wait, there's more. Like, way more. Did I mention the Sharp 68000 has hundreds of shmups waiting to be discovered? And there's a ton still to be found on all forms of Japanese and Western computer systems. I'll bet there are many of you with personal favorites that you wish I would have highlighted, or some that I've yet to play. I want you to let me know what those are in the comments, so I can line up even more for future projects. And if you really enjoyed this style of discovery video and want to see more, I've already made some fantastic ones, like Best Arcade Action Games You Never Played, or the most recent, Best Obscure Run and Guns You Never Played. If you're new to the channel or just haven't seen them yet, you can check them out right here.